Hello there. In this tutorial, I'm going to discuss about FSMO roles, or in the older version of documentation, it also known as Operation Master roles. So FSMO roles are flexible single master operation roles. We're used to have depends on the Active Directory domain services. There are there's five rows associated with FSMO rows, and let me first go to our documentation. Okay, so basically our Active Directory domain services. Now this page is of Microsoft, and that's the reason we prefer this Microsoft page more than any other documentations. Now our Active Directory domain services having two model roles. First is multi-master model, and second is single master model. Multi-master model means, for example, our domain, like this is our domain, and additional domain having an additional domain child domain. For example, this Tech Engineer TV domain having a DNS or DSCP or any other, for example, a terminal services and related to that. So let's take an example of DNS, and for example, if this domain tries to resolve some record and try to add some record, then these records will automatically updated in the additional domain controller and even in child domain controller. Nothing needs to do round. Whenever the primary server got update of documentation, it also automatically get updated at additional domain controller and child domain controller. The reason is that the transparency of the forest because of the transparency of the forest, whenever a user join the domain, and if some updates happen in the domain, then that user need not to do anything or need not to see which domain is updated or which are not. It just the user will automatically get connected to the forest, and whenever any change happens, that happen and that implements to the forest. So it remains transparent for the user not even get to understand what exactly the updates happen, and the updates happen in quick time, whatever updates are regarding forest. So it up to the forest manager, for the administrator of the forest, what to bring the updates. So this is what the concept of multi-master model, that multi-master model having all the rows gets updated. You can see it gets updates in the database. According to the documentation, a multi-master enabled database such as the Active Directory provides the flexibility of allowing changes to occur at any DC in the enterprise, but it also introduces the possibility of conflicts that can potentially lead to problems when the data is replicated to the rest of the enterprise. It means, for example, if two user join the domain with the same IP address, then you will get the conflicts. Then you will get the conflicts that particular user is already available. So the conflicts there, if, for example, if already one role's server is installed in the database, and if you tries to make that like if a primary DNS server already installed in the primary forest, and if you also going to install a primary DNS, then conflicts will happen, because then domain will ask you which one to known as a primary DNS server. So these conflicts, that the possibility that might lead problem, that's the reason sometimes they were very accurate about giving the theories what are the possibilities with the forest is going to be happen. So one way Windows deal with the conflicting updates is by having two conflict resolution algorithm handle. Discrepancies in values are by resolving to the DC to which changes were written in last. So while discarding the changes in all other DCs, I mean whatever changes happen, it will ask you to, it will first update the conflicts, will ask you to make these changes and you will read changes. But this is what multi-master worlds model is all about. Means whatever change you made in the forest, then a whole domain, the whole additional domain, the whole child domain, the whole RODC read-only domain control will get those updates quickly, and the user whenever they join the forest will never even understand what changes has been made. But there are 5 rows which are known as single master model. It means every domain having those master model individually, not the whole forest label but individually. So what is the single master model is? To prevent conflicting updates in Windows, the Active Directory performs updates to certain objects in a single master fashion. In a single master model, only one DC in the entire directory is allowed to process the updates. This is similar to the role given to a primary domain controller PDC in earlier versions of Windows such as Microsoft Windows NT 3.511 and 4.0, in which the PDC is responsible for processing all updates to given domain. Active Directory retains some single master model found in earlier versions of Windows to include multiple rows and the ability to transfer rows into any direct domain controller in their enterprise. Because of an Active Directory role is now bound to a single DC, it is referred to flexible single master operation row, which is FSMO. And currently Windows there are 5 FSMO rows. So these 5 rows domain, the Windows Microsoft purposely made the changes that these 5 rows will only be allowed to each and every domain. I mean each and every domain is the owner of these rows and nothing to do with the forest. If for example a domain uh, uh, server change, if made update in this update and made the updates in these rows, then it will not followed in the forest, it will not update in the forest, since these rows are are, are since domains are the owner of these 5 rows. Now these 5 rows also having a classification. Let me go to diagram and will tell you these 5 rows actually having the classification. 2 rows such as schema update and schema master row and naming master. The schema master row, a domain naming master, is available only to one forest. Means rows which is available rows which is available which is allowed only one in forest, which is allowed only one in forest, only one in forest are, and let me change the color. Okay, and these are schema updates and domain naming master row. Schema updates, you can say schema master row also. Schema master rows, domain naming master rows. So let me start with domain naming master rows. And what are these domain naming master rows? you can see, understand what this I made a forest, a diagram of forest, and this is what the domain name is, techengineer.tv. Okay, now whenever we create additional domain controller, additional domain controller means it's additional part of this primary server, additional part of primary server. But whenever we install CDC in our forest, then we have to give a prefix, some prefix. For example, mail.techengineer.tv. This is what the CDC features are. When the difference between primary and secondary are that primary server, the secondary server follows the primary server, and it is known as a backup. Means whenever primary server if gets discarded, or if create a problem, if it goes down, or some problem occurs, then the secondary domain will take over the primary domain. We will use that the database, since the primary and secondary database gets refreshed with each other, carries the same database. That's the reason primary and secondary carries as backup of the primary. Secondary carries as a backup tag a primary domain. But when you install CDC, you have to bring a prefix, and that's either mail or any other thing. For example, india.techengineer.tv. This is because the CDC is also a domain, and whether that domain comes to the forest or not, but in the forest also two domains are allowed. So at one forest, one domain means one domain in the forest can carry domain master roles. Either this Tech Engineer TV can carry the domain master roles, domain naming master roles, or CDC. Okay, so only in one forest these two rows, which is schema master rows, domain naming master rows, this whole forest, whatever domain you have, this domain, this domain, this domain, this domain, only one domain of the forest, it is the forest of techengineer.tv. Only one domain of the forest can carry these rows, which is schema master rows and domain naming master rows. So I'm just told you what are the theories of domain naming master rows, and every forest will have only one naming master, the domain having only one kind of naming system. It means you have to add some prefix. You can't add only one domain name to every. You can't give one domain name to every domain server of the network. So domain naming, a domain naming master FSMO role holder is DC responsible for making changes to the forest-wide domain name space of the directory. You can see this partition / configuration naming text. This is where the path is. This DC is the only one that can add or remove a domain from the directory. It can also add, remove cross references to domains in the external directories. Also, one thing I will tell you that if this Tech Engineer TV, if this primary domain who carries the schema master rows and domain naming master rows, if this domain gets does this get discarded or gets shut down or called off, then no CDC and no ADC will able to demote as an Active Directory of Tech Engineer TV. It will give you error. You will not able to demote that server from the domain authentication. That's because this Tech Engineer TV carries the rights, and that's reason it's not possible. So if this primary server gets disconnected or call off and it's shut down, then you can't demote ADC CDC from the forest. We can't demote them from Active Directory, and this is what the domain naming master is all about, that you can't demote until unless if this primary server gets called off, or it complete goes off, then only it will allow you to, then only this Active Directory domain controller either give authentication of primary domain servers, or goes to or you were not able to demote. Okay, so now the schema master FSMO role. The schema master FSMO role holder is the DC responsible for performing updates to the directory schema, which is again the schema naming context. This is the only one that can process updates to the directory schema. Once the schema updates is completely, it is replicated for the schema updates to all other DCs in the directory. There is only one schema master per directory. It means it carries the updates of the directory. It carries the classes and attributes, the combination, the collection of classes and attributes in the directory. Once the schema update is completed, it will replicate it from the schema master to all the other DCs in the directory. So these are the schema master is all about. Means the directory, the domain, having all the updates of classes and attributes. I mean, all the updates of the forest will store in this schema master role. And if this schema gets disconnected, or I mean, if it gets corrupted, then we might see the error regarding whatever operation we will do regarding schema in our network. So it's better. And the schema master is also a very complicated thing. You need professional programmers for these schema master roles. Now, okay, what we need to do here is now RID master FSMO role. This is the third, fourth, and fifth role. So let me just do a chart. Okay, now rows which are allowed in domain allowed per domain, means every domain can have these rows are the third row is RID master, PDC emulator, and the fifth one, which is infrastructure FSMO roles. Infrastructure master, infrastructure roles. Okay, so these three are allowed per domain, and no matter this primary, this additional, and this child also can carry these RID master roles, and you just need to update those. For example, if the additional one additional domain controller get corrupted, then you can transfer these roles. If child domain controller corrupted, then you can transfer these roles. So this is where the unique things is all about. So this is 5 roles. These are per forest. These 2 roles means only one domain on the entire forest can carry schema masters and domain naming masters roles, and per domain means any of the domain, all the domain of the forest can carry RID master, PDC emulator, and infrastructure roles. Okay, so what we do, let me go to documentation. Okay, so what we are talking about, the RID master FSMO role. The RID master FSMO role is the single DC responsible for processing RID pull requests from all the DCs within a given domain. It is also responsible for removing an object from its domain and putting it into another domain during an object move. When DC creates a security principal object such as user or group, it attached to a unique security ID, SID. This SID consists of domain SID and relative ID that is unique for each security principal SID created in a domain. Each DC is in a domain allocated to a pool of RIDs. This is allowed to assign the security principals it creates when DC allowed RID pool for us between threshold that DC issues a request for additional RIDs to a domain RID master. So very quickly I'm going to tell you what the RID master is. This RID master, when you by name you can understand what this RID master is. So RID master, if for example when talking about the RID masters, every computer having, whenever we create some task, it will create a SID. You can understand with the documentation. SID is security ID, and you will counter with this SID more in Linux than Windows, because in Windows everything is graphical, but in Linux you have to actually kill those SID to kill programs. You need to learn which program having SIDs or what. So these are having a unique IDs. Every program having unique IDs, and similarly a RID in the domain also having a unique IDs. Whenever we create a group or user means object thing of a domain, then these RID gets created, means every RID means for example if one RID is there, then domain can create a group. But if RID gets corrupted in the network, then whenever our domain tries to create a group and user, then we will get the error regarding RID, that no RID is left and no group and no user allowed to create. So that's the reason RID is very important, that it is basically based on the groups and user. Whenever we create a group and user object related item in the domain, then this RID involved to give a validation. So like a program, whenever you open program once saved by the computer, similarly in domain, RID issued when we do create user or group. Okay, now PDC emulator. PDC emulator is necessary to synchronize in an enterprise Windows included W32 time Windows time terminal required by the Kerberos authentication protocol. All Windows-based computers within enterprise use a common time. The purpose of the time service is to ensure the Windows time service uses a hierarchical relationship that controls authority and does not permit loops to ensure appropriate common time uses. So PDC is basically depends upon the time, and it keeps on synchronizing. I mean, uh, every domain updates ourselves. Every domain keeps on synchronize ourselves. For example, any changes be made in this primary domain, then the change will also made in this additional domain. For example, locally it's manageable, but outside the country and in different time zone, a group actually follows one time zone. For example, a time zone. If group is based on PDC, the GMT time zone, or a Pacific time zone, then the other additional group, for example, if this additional domain is on India, then this Indian domain controller will also needs to have the same time of a primary zone, since the updation happens. So all the time, whenever you open Gmail, you will find it says the account open from here, and they give a time zone of GMT, not Indian Standard Time, not IST, because their server is following GMT, and you are accessing Gmail from GMT time zone, no matter you're using it IST or what. So this is PDC is about. Now, infrastructure, a lot many things are there. Following infrastructure, information describes. So a lot many things are there regarding PDC if you want to learn. But the final is infrastructure FSM rule. So when an object in one domain is referred by another object in another domain, it refers to the reference of GUID, the SID, and the DN of the object being referenced. The infrastructure FSMO row holder is DC responsible for update objects of SID and distinguished name. The cross-domain object means by name only you can understand this is based on infrastructure role, and the one domain referred to the another object in the another domain. It refers the reference of by the GUID, the SID, and the D of the object being referenced. I mean, it create a reference of your domain, of your resources, of your library. So this is what it's all about of FSMO rules. We learned about which roles are available in the forest base, which roles are available as per domain base, and we saw the documentation of Microsoft. We discussed about each and every FSMO role. This is quite a long video, but in the next video we will do a transfer of roles, and we'll learn to seize roles. So hope you learned something from it. Hope I able to make you understand the roles of FSMO roles in the domain network. Hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching.